Good day to everyone. This is my presentation on a chapter of a book. I chose emotional intelligence for religious leaders for many different reasons, but I think that John Lee West, the author of this book, put it best when he wrote, "We are emotional creatures working among emotional people in emotionally charged situations." I chose chapter 4, which is titled Utilizing Emotional Self-Control. I felt that it really got to the nuts and the bolts of things we need to focus on and things that we maybe need to pay attention to as we move forward. I think not just as religious leaders, but just as people interacting with other people. Emotional self-control is one way that we can prevent our emotions and feelings from interfering with our personal and professional lives. There were several things that I feel are worth mentioning. First, there's something called inventory of feelings. This is something that we do probably after we have had an interaction with somebody that emotions were present. And we just kind of want to be like, ooh, I maybe could have handled that a little better. And looking at what emotions were at play and maybe why they were at play. What was either yourself or the person or committee you were talking to reacting to? What's kind of underneath? The next thing, the idea of being a workaholic. This happens when we're denying something else attention. Maybe we're not able to resolve a conflict somewhere or resolve a decision or relationship. And so we try to make up for that by doing lots of other things that make us feel purposeful and feel rewarding, that make us feel like, yes, I am doing a good job. This only leads to burnout because you're not addressing the real issue. And it might just be as simple as you don't have the personality or the skills to address these specific things within your call. And that's okay. The next thing is sublimation, which is when we unconsciously transform socially unacceptable emotional impulses into socially acceptable behavior. An example of this is taking on more than we can do. Again, the idea sometimes that the pastor has to do everything. When we create that kind of environment, then that only sets us up for failure because then we're expected to do everything all the time. And that is just not a healthy culture. The last thing is asking for help. There's no shame in knowing our limits, asking for help with a particular situation committee, but just asking for help within ourselves, professional help, whether it is a medical professional or a professional psychologist or counselor. We have to take care of ourselves, and these people can help us manage things that are a little bit beyond our control. It can help bring them back into ways that are manageable and healthier. There are several things that the author puts forward that are techniques or ways for us to move forward and to recognize with each interaction. As we said before, we are emotional beings working with other emotional beings. First is to recognize your triggers, what sets you off emotionally. Second would be to create emotional boundaries. And this third thing that I've pulled out to highlight it is practicing self-care. Now, those of you who have been working with Dr. Lefebvre in your SPMs, I know for me, she has made self-care the utmost of importance. And we need to learn to care for ourselves because nobody else is really going to do it. It's that for anybody that has ridden in an airplane, they give the talk about the seatbelts and yada yada, and then they talk about when the air masks drop from the ceiling, you're to put your mask on first before helping other people. We cannot help other people and situations if we don't take care of ourselves. So I can't stress enough how important self-care is. There were some quotes that stuck out to me from the book also that I wanted to briefly mention. He said, "Remember, we are perfectly imperfect, and that's okay." That said to me that it is okay to make mistakes. But it is when we allow ourselves to learn from our mistakes that things are productive. He also wrote that as religious leaders, we often feel pressure to hide our negative feelings from others, to show that we have achieved a higher level of spirituality. I do think in religion, just in general, especially with religious leaders, we're not supposed to be emotional. We're not supposed to be real people. Somehow there's a stigma that we have risen to a level above other people, and that's just not realistic. It is not realistic at all. We are people just like everybody else who are living out our specific call. And the last one, he writes a quote, actually, that's attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. "When handling yourself, use your head. And to handle others, use your heart." So I leave you with that today. I hope that this has helped you understand where our emotions fit within being emotional religious leaders. And I hope that it's helped you think of maybe how your emotions are helpful and maybe not helpful in some situations. So, hey, have a great and blessed day. And I pray for you all as we all come to an end of the semester.